LoveCX versus Neilyo. It's going to be quite an entertaining match. Neilyo played a little bit earlier, and he didn't quite overtake his friendly rival, Hot Form.
Yeah, he had a good match there, but was not able to emerge victorious. LoveCX similarly fell yesterday, and these two players, one of them will be eliminated after this game.
Yeah, Neilyo was one of those players who, when we were first coming in and we were, doing our best to learn more about some of these players we'd never seen before, Neilyo is a very highly talked about player. Absolutely comes in here as one of the favorites from his region. So I'm curious to see if Neilyo can kind of turn it around here and advance to live another day.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. His lineup did seem like a very good one. It's just a bit hard to say. Was he playing? Yeah, he was playing the Secret Paladin with the double redemption.
I believe both of these players were playing that particular strategy.
I don't think
no.
so.
LoveCX, I believe, was playing the mid-range Paladin, if I remember correctly.
I think
yesterday
you're right.
was all mid-range Paladin.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
So I think it's going to be a mid-range Paladin versus the Secret Paladin, and the other two classes are different. So again, we're seeing this thing where they're playing completely different classes, kind of.
there's the shared Paladin, but they are very different strategies of Paladin.
Exactly. One's trying to extend the game, one's trying to close it out every single turn after 3.
So yeah, like Hot Form, I've actually played against Neilyo several times on the ladder. He's a very friendly player. He added me, like Hot Form was saying in his discussion before. We had good conversation about the games, and looks like we're ready to get into those games.
Yeah,
right
it
now.
is going to be Battle of the Paladins indeed.
Yeah. And
now, I always have to favor the mid-range Paladin just because of the coolness factor. But when we drop to a more realistic world, what can we expect out of this match?
Well, one of those cards right there, I'm not sure if we got the exact mulligan there, but I'd be kind of surprised he did choose to mulligan Ironbeak Owl. That's one of the cards I actually really like in this matchup, because so much of the threat of the Secret Paladin deck comes from things like Avenge and Blessing Kings, and the ability to neutralize that early on is quite strong.
Yeah, so Neilyo's opening hand, and as a Secret Paladin, this is not uncommon. Contains a secret or two. I would imagine he's probably going to, if he's going to play one of these secrets, it's going to be Avenge over Competitive Spirit. Usually Competitive Spirit you want to play now when you have a bunch of minions on board, you expect them to survive. That's when you're going to kind of lead that damage push into your opponent. Lotheb is great to have around, and Haunted Creeper, very natural turn 2 play.
A lot of people talk about how there are, well, even we talk about it, how there are these secrets that usually don't work. We usually refer to Redemption and Repentance. But actually, Competitive Spirit is kind of in that boat as well. It's often very clunky at the start of the game, and when you do bring it out with Mysterious Challenger because your opponent is kind of prepared for that push on turn 6, usually it just buffs maybe 2 creatures at most. It's really powerful, but it seems a situation in which it arises to be really powerful is fairly rare.
It's mostly a card that you want in your deck because you just get basically for free off of Secret Challenger in the games where you don't draw it. This is kind of the drawback, the games where you actually do draw it.
It's Zombie Chow.
Yeah, that's a little unusual. Looks like Neilyo has more of a mid-range direction to his Secret Paladin deck here. Zombie Chow, one of the most efficient minions at fighting for the board, but because of its Death Rattle, not really great at pushing for damage.
We have seen this type of Secret Paladin where I think usually they remove one or both Divine Favors in favor of more mid-range cards, because one aspect is you don't really need that much card draw if you're saturating your mana every turn until like 8.
Part of it depends on the sort of opponent's decks you plan to play against, you think you're going to run into. A card like Divine Favor is great if you think you're going to run into players who are running control decks like Control Warrior or Handlock or Freeze Mage, whereas if you expect more aggressive opponents, Zombie Chow is generally going to be more important in those matchups.
Yeah, I think Neilyo was taking a little bit of time to consider there whether or not he wanted to play the Zombie Chow down or the Haunted Creeper. Obviously, if he plays it next turn, he can combo with the Hero Power and get a little more value. But every turn you wait on that Zombie Chow, it obviously gets a little bit weaker because, as you pointed out, that Death Rattle heals the opponent or opposing hero.
I think there's some possibility he's actually also just kind of taking his time to make it look like he has more options than he really does. We even saw him sort of tank on turn 1, whether he was going to play Avenge or Competitive Spirit. And Competitive Spirit is a very weak secret to play early in the game. So I think it might be a little bit of mind games here from Neilyo.
I actually feel that Neilyo is in a lot of trouble already. He wasn't able to really extend his lead as the aggressor at all. Literally at all. His opponent is at 30, and he has a bigger board than him. And it feels like you either have that push to develop your win condition, or you have the push on like turn 5, 6, 7 with the very, very powerful minions that are in this deck, like Mysterious Challenger, like Dr. Boom. But it seems like if we get to that stage, LoveCX already has the answer with the worst case scenario being resolved by a quality Consecrate. So it seems like Neilyo is going to have a very big problem being able to close out this game.
I mean, we do see that LoveCX also, he has both True Silver Champion and Coghammer in his hand. He has some strong weapons he can use to deal with the board if it does sort of start to gum things up.
You could also even look to coin out a Consecration here based on how the Secret plays out, based on Avenge. Have to imagine that'll get saved for later. There are probably better times to use it, but he could also coin out the True Silver Champion, as you pointed out. Yeah, let's see what happens here. He's going to Coghammer, it looks like.
Yeah, I like the Coghammer. It kind of sets up for a Consecration, even especially if it's Avenge, actually, because the weaker minion will burn the Divine Shield, the stronger minion would attack, and the stronger minion was just going to have 2 or less health after that.
Yeah. So this will trigger the Avenge, and it goes on the Haunted Creeper.
That's actually the better one of the two.
It is, though it does mean that the 1/1 isn't really a threat in itself. But being able to attack here and clear off the Divine Shield and then kill the minion is reasonably strong. It's followed up with Shredder.
I like this better. I mean, the other scenario, your Haunted Creeper, you have to kill it off to burn the Divine Shield, and then you basically have a board that loses the Consecrate. And now you actually don't. You get to keep those 1/1s unless your opponent takes 4 face damage, which, I mean, I think you're okay with that. Generally, you're really happy with that, but is it 30? And the life issue is usually kind of should be seen as like a percentage. If you're losing like what is that, 12% of your life, that's not really much.
I mean, it's still a reasonable situation for both players, really. Neither player is in under dire straits here just yet. Neilyo going to follow us up with a piloted Shredder, and that does make LoveCX's turn not necessarily great. He does have this Coghammer he'd like to get a little bit more value out of, but his only real answer to that that Shredder right now would be a True Silver Champion, or potentially attacking into it and casting the Consecration. Probably doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, we were talking about how Neilyo's Secret Paladin seems a little bit more mid-range in nature, and the Sludge Belcher really drives that point home. Sludge Belcher is not a minion you traditionally see in Secret Paladin, at least in most of the lists we see in North America or Europe. It's obviously a very defensive card, great against more aggressive lineups. Yep. So if you are expecting to see, Face Hunter, Zoo, some of those decks that are starting to rise again in popularity, Sludge Belcher is very good. It's just, obviously, it's a little slower.
We are seeing the Consecration from LoveCX here, which will leave Neilyo with the 2 spiders and whatever's in that Shredder.
Okay.
A very thematically appropriate Argent Protector.
Yeah. As far as the Belcher is concerned, I think you're absolutely right about that. But actually, I've heard some of the even very aggressive ones are running like a 1-of Sludge Belcher because they just ignore your board. Yeah, and they're actually taking a lot of damage by the time turn 5 comes around.
Well, it's also great at protecting.
It's even great in that sense.
Well, it's also great at protecting your minions. Not just your face, but being able to preserve your minions on the board with the taunt of the Belcher allows you to just continue to go face with those minions.
We saw that a lot actually during the Undertaker Hunter era.
Yep.
We started to see the mid-range Hunter at the time running Sludge Belcher for exactly the same reasons you're talking about. Just you can't get to these other minions, and it's so difficult to get through that of silence. Have to imagine with LoveCX having the True Silver, the Coghammer out, that Sludge Belcher is the play here. Just no easy way for him to get by the Sludge Belcher, and Neilyo can start using those admittedly small minions to push damage. That said, he's going to have him sub 20 health, so given his start, as you pointed out, Crip, was a little bit slower, this is a pretty reasonable place for Neilyo to be at.
Yeah. And next turn, he potentially even has Lotheb into Competitive Spirit with a very strong board. It doesn't look like LoveCX has really any great way to contest this. He just uses Consecration, so even with that equality, he's not able to wipe the board.
Yeah, I think he really has to play Juggler Peacekeeper here. It really sucks to play a Peacekeeper going into turn 6 for a Secret Paladin, but you're starting to fall behind a lot, and that's a bigger problem.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't really have any great on-curve plays. He doesn't have a Belcher of his own. He doesn't have coin into, say, Sylvanas or something, which could potentially be a valuable card here. But right now, yeah, I have to agree that it seems like maybe even just a quality. Yeah, I think I would say a quality juggler hero power attacker guy.
Okay.
He's going to coin out the
Neilyo looks really confused.
Let's see what it hits here.
Reporting for duty.
All right.
That's pretty good.
But will we get the attack? Oh, well, okay. Sometimes the Belcher it's one of those cards where if the turn timer is running out.
Oh dear. And you see
Wow.
an actual just pump of his fist from Neilyo there as he picks up Mysterious Challenger on turn 6. Only 3 secrets pulled out. He has already gone through the competitive sphere, or rather has it in his hand.
Still pretty good value here, and if you're playing Secret Paladin and you have no turn 6 play going into turn 6, and you could draw a turn 6 play, you probably want Mysterious Challenger.
And it looks like he's debating whether he wants to clear off this minion. My guess is that he probably does just to protect his Noble Sacrifice.
Yeah, Noble Sacrifice is pretty valuable against an empty board.
Yeah. At that point, the only thing you're really expecting to see is the weapon.
Wow, he wants to get the 1 point of face damage in there.
It could be that maybe he's a bit scared of stacking too much attack on one minion.
Sure. Yeah, it does allow him to be more likely for an Avenge to go on one of the 1 moves. So he's not necessarily going to get as high a percentage of his board eliminated by a possible Aldar Peacekeeper or Big Game Hunter. And we do see the Aldar Peacekeepers in LoveCX's hand, so if that
He's
Avenge
gonna
had
play
gone,
both of them.
yeah.
There's no choice here.
But
A lot of rules will have to be followed.
Yeah, everyone's gonna follow the rules.
He's
right
just
now.
a stickler for those rules.
He's even got his like hands clasped there. He's like, hey, why don't we all follow some rules?
All right, well, Neilyo is protecting his big board by playing Lotheb. This is absolutely the best time to play a card like this. Of course, it doesn't actually matter right now, as LoveCX really exhausted his board clear potential. And I feel that's kind of why he's in this position, but at the same time, I can't really blame him for doing so because he had such suboptimal plays throughout those mid-range turns.
Yeah, Paladin, in a lot of ways, similar to Druid, aside from like Alder Peacekeeper, they require like 4+ mana to kind of deal with board situations using stuff like Consecration, using Consecration Equality combos, and True Silver Champion. So he was kind of on that plan where he only had like 1 thing he could do per turn, and he was facing the Avenged, buffed Haunted Creeper, as well as a Shredder, so he felt like he had to do something at that point. So I'm right there with you. I'm not sure I really fault him for using the Consecration the way he did.
Yeah.
It looks like Neilyo is debating whether he wants to basically trade off 2 damage, or 3 damage rather, on his Challenger and the Defender to take down one of these. He does. Which
Ooh.
Oh.
That's a draw.
What timing?
And that card is pretty good.
1 good turn. I mean, Neilyo got his turn 6. Let LoveCX get his turn 7, and he even has the Tyrion to follow up on turn 8. So as much as LoveCX was running out of ways to answer the board, he's found a lot of answers to his own board situation.
I think here you're kind of scared of a redemption.
Well,
Do you weigh in redemption versus like a silence draw? Like if there were no secrets, you'd absolutely want to kill the 1/3 Mysterious Challenger. But I guess you have to factor that in. It's probably more likely there is a redemption than a silence.
Certainly, yeah. And the redemption does come out, and bring back the Spider. Could have been a disaster if you chose to attack Mysterious Challenger.
Right.
This is still going to be a lot of damage right here.
Yeah, it's pretty big. Oh, and there's a nice draw for Neilyo as well.
That is something you want to see here.
Yeah, generally in Hearthstone, when you put a card in your deck that has a certain mana cost and you draw it exactly on that mana crystal, it turns out to be a good turn.
Yeah, it's weird how that works, but
and both players are kind of doing it. They're just both getting those cards they need at exactly the right time.
But also, if you're winning already and that happens to you, you actually just win more because having the initiative on the board, if you're both drawing the same, you're actually winning by more each time.
It looks like LoveCX usually take out just the Peacekeeper on Neilyo's side, or rather vice versa. Neilyo takes out LoveCX Peacekeeper, drops his Tyrion, and he's going to see a Tyrion coming out right back at him, I have to imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. LoveCX did not want that bot to go to face. It is a pretty rough situation here. I think he actually may... No, he's not quite dead.
He is at 2 HP.
Yeah, if Neilyo draws a silence effect or any sort of...
Oh, like that.
Or that!
Brian the Prophet Kibler. Yes, deliver unto me owls.
Doing this to the players.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
If only he'd draw silence.
If only Jab could draw fireball. Oh my god.
How much did Neilyo pay you?
The world just bends to my will. I can't help it, okay?
Honestly,
it's a real curse.
I feel like the Secret Paladin these days runs like 1 silence or 0 silence.
It is actually not particularly common to see even one Iron Beak Owl in a lot of decks, and that was a very well-timed owl flying down from the forest to
just goes up to Tyrion Fordling like, hey, be quiet.
Speaking of drawing cards exactly when you need them, it's like
there's a lot of that.
Turn 9 is a great time to draw Iron Beak Owl because that's right when your opponent could have played Tyrion.
Right.
As it so happens.
So the Owl, though, being in Neilyo's Secret Paladin deck doesn't actually surprise me as much when we saw the rest of what he was running. We saw that Sludge Belcher. It was kind of a hybrid Secret Paladin mid-range Paladin.
Oh man, it's the Hunter theme all over
Hybrid
again.
Paladin.
I mean, it starts
with the mid-range, it goes to like the aggro, it goes to like a different type of aggro, and now we have the hybrid.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
What have we made?
So this Frankenstein's monster of various secrets and bots and, I don't even know, giant swords.
I don't know. All right, well, Neilyo does take the first game. Of course, he is from the Asia-Pacific region, and he had a few words to tell us about what's going on that side of the world.
It was very exciting to compete in 2 qualifiers, Southeast Asia and APAC, because I like to travel a lot. And I also had an advantage because I was in the top 8 in Southeast Asia standing, so I had 2 buys. I just had to win a few games to get into Southeast Asia qualifier and a few more games to get into APAC. So that was not challenging at all. That was very exciting.
And game 2 is underway. One thing that I'm kind of happy out of that is that we got to see more mid-range Paladin. I think mid-range Paladin, Freeze Mage, and maybe Casino Mage have been my favorite decks of the tournament. You guys have any favorites?
I mean, I've loved watching Jab's games with the Casino Mage deck. Yeah. It's so fun to watch. There's so many cool situations that come up, and yeah, it's just a really neat deck.
How about yourself?
I'll take the unpopular answer and just say that I unabashedly have enjoyed seeing Face Hunter. I love a good Smorkin. I don't know. I think people don't understand when they play the deck. I'm not saying that all games are super complicated with Face Hunter, but you sometimes have to make a couple of decisions.
True. I definitely think that the difficulty of winning games, not necessarily, winning games just all the time. It can be pretty easy to just drag everything in your opponent's face, but winning tough games with Face Hunter is actually really rewarding. It's really interesting to try and maximize things, to try and figure out what you can play around.
Let's look at this situation, though. We actually have what seems to be a Zoo Demon Lock, and he has the Dream, the Void Caller Mal'Ganis. So do you think he'd ever keep that? He didn't, I guess.
Did not.
But
I think against the Hunter, it's probably pretty appealing. It's difficult for the Hunter to be able to remove Mal'Ganis from the board if it does come down early on. The biggest threat is really that you need to have some way to interact both with your opponent's early minions who don't just get overrun before you can actually get your Void Caller killed. And if your opponent does have a freezing track, it can be difficult to actually ensure that your Void Caller does die.
Yeah, that is absolutely one of the best counters in the game for Void Caller, because Void Caller is usually a tempo drop. You kind of... you invest in the Void Caller, and if he gets silenced, you're in pretty bad shape, and if he gets freeze-trapped, well, things went horribly wrong.
Yeah, that's not what you're looking for.
But like, we see the explosive trap in Neilyo's deck, and I actually don't even remember if there is a freeze trap. But for LoveCX, knowing that he'd be playing against Neilyo, I'm sure he would have done the notes, he would have done the studying. And by seeing the explosive trap, I think most likely there probably isn't a freeze trap in this deck. So if there wasn't a freeze trap, and you have the coin and the Void Caller and Mal'Ganis, that seems so cool.
And LoveCX very kindly takes 3 damage.
Yeah, just helping Neilyo out here.
What a nice guy. I want to point out, mid-range Hunter for a long time, the list, I believe, was 2 freezing traps and 1 explosive. To basically, you try to get them to play,
or
obviously,
snake,
around freezing trap.
Snake was pretty
It was,
pretty common as well.
I think the 3rd trap was very much variable, but I think in most standard lists that I saw anyway, it was 1 explosive trap. As it actually means a board clear. So it might just be that Neilyo is running the 3 trap setup. And that works out pretty well against a situation where you expect to see the explosive trap, or the freezing trap, and not the explosive trap.
Ooh, and I wonder if LoveCX is going to get a little bit punished if he does decide to not clear this, or attempt to clear. Oh dear!
The punish. And LoveCX's face, he did not expect that.
He did not know, and you see a little bit of chuckle from Neilyo. He, the pre-combat...
Got him.
Yeah,
thanks.
That was
But look at this turn, though. Like, we have nothing here.
It's true. Oh, there's something.
No, actually no.
I'm just saying that 1/1 trades out for that 1/1.
It's true.
And you can still hero power.
Even board trade.
That's 2 damage. you want to do that.
Yep. You do want to do 2 damage.
You might just want to hero power here. I mean, you could make the argument. You could certainly have the discussion.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's unreasonable to play Timberwolf here because your opponent, right now your opponent has a minion in play. If you find, say, a freezing trap, you may want to be able to develop a freezing trap. You don't want that minion to be in play. And if your opponent doesn't clear your minion, you can Houndmaster next turn. It's very likely he would, of course. But
yeah, it's almost certain he would.
But there's also a minion your opponent could have in play that they could potentially buff with Defender Vargas, you know, in a couple turns. I think that there's a lot of reasons to not play it, but I think it's, yeah, and it looks like Neilyo agrees. He's just setting up, actually, with the Owl as well for that Houndmaster next turn.
Well, the main reason to not play it, of course, is Unleash the Hounds is just getting better and better as more people are playing aggressive decks, and I think we've seen an anticipation by the players that most other players will play aggressive decks. So I think every Hunter deck has double Unleash, and Timberwolf just works so well with that.
And here, LoveCX, with a lot of respect for the threat of Houndmaster, he saw, you know, that
it seemed pretty obvious.
That was pretty clear that there was a Houndmaster coming down on Neilyo's side, so he chooses to use
Houndmaster
his
still
coin.
might come down.
I mean, despite having a really expensive hand, LoveCX used his coin to cast that Implosion.
Yeah, LoveCX is actually in a pretty good spot just because Neilyo hasn't really had any follow-up to that early web spinner.
Right. Not only that, the Voidcaller, Mal'Ganis, Doomguard trio has returned.
Yeah, he is an excellent hand.
All 3, that was his opening hand.
It was.
They were not so soon cast to the side. They returned.
Yeah, they weren't happy with LoveCX's decision to drop them.
If a demon wants something, like to be in your hand, it'll get it. It'll come back. There's some sort of pact going on there.
Right. Absolutely.
And unfortunately, Neilyo really, I mean, as you said, he could just drop the Houndmaster. Obviously, feels bad.
Oh, man.
But maybe, yes. Thanks. Rise got my back. Yeah, it's important, though, to have something on the board and continue to push things. And LoveCX very competently plays down the Voidcaller, and he's like, why don't you see what's inside? Come on.
What could it be? What's in the box?
What's in the box?
Oh, Juggler.
Juggler.
As often as I seem to get Juggler Unleashed, I don't think I've ever been Juggler Unleashed. I don't think I've been on the receiving end of that, like, massacre.
that is a
it's
very
kind of like Malagos Arcane
good
Missiles.
time.
Yeah. Imagine if he saved the Timberwolf as well.
Oh,
Juggler Unleashed Timberwolf.
Well, then you barely have any room for hounds. Like, so much of your board
you can
is
sack a
taken
hound
up.
then play the Timberwolf.
It's true. It's true.
Well, that would assume there'd be creatures left on the other side of the board, which may not be the case.
So Neilyo, again, in kind of an awkward spot. He would have loved to have these jugglers earlier, even just last turn. Playing Juggler would have been much more attractive than playing this Houndmaster.
Really, I feel like Neilyo is in the spot where if he plays Lothar, he's kind of running out of cards. You don't want to play jugglers just as tempo cards, so you have to start going face. You just have to go for it as often as you possibly can from the stage.
It's a difficult spot, but it puts you in a position where you at least are able to open up the window of opportunity for you to maybe come back here. Neilyo is in a really rough spot, but we're gonna see. I'm a little okay. He's gonna.
That surprises me.
Yeah, I'm a little.
Because if you get Mal'Ganis, I guess you just don't get Mal'Ganis.
All right.
But if you did get Mal'Ganis, those 1/1s would have been a little bit stronger.
Yeah, now Neilyo is absolutely on the back foot. This is not a place Hunter really traditionally comes back from. This is without at least Hunter's Mark.
No,
Hunter's Mark is a good way to build
I think
it
you're
a
actually
bit.
fine. I think you have to play the Haunted Creeper and kill command the 5/5. The Haunted Creeper is extremely unlikely to die. Like, why would someone lose like as much as 8 damage to just clear 1-attack creatures from this point, especially after you've seen a kill command? So the double Juggler can actually clear the board.
There's an Implosion, and LoveCX does have a Juggler of his own.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that sucks.
It's also one of those things. I think I should clarify that what I meant when I said that was that tossing in the kill command, using all those resources to kind of deal with the board. It's just
hard to close out the game,
Zoo is good at getting on the board.
Yeah.
Hunter's a little bit less good at that, and they want to have all those resources to do the damage. So
LoveCX now with
here we go.
a second 1-point Implosion that this time with the Juggler that failed. Oh, God.
That's a good one.
Juggler on Juggler Crun.
Oh,
no,
all right.
That was terrible.
Good jugglers.
They know who they work for.
Yeah.
Smork.
I mean, they took out the first Juggler, and then they're like, no more.
As bad as that was, it was still good enough. The Doomguard has to trade with a Knife Juggler if he wants them off the board, and otherwise they're very dangerous.
You can't trust those knife jugglers. They were raised in a rough part of town. They throw knives for a living.
Yeah.
It's very dangerous. It's a bad time to be a person who dislikes having knives thrown at them.
Are there good times?
That feels like a conversation for after.
Well, that is not a very good card.
Oh.
That is, though. Dr.
Well, see,
Boom
that's a
coming
good time
down.
to have knives thrown at you when you're a Boombot.
That is true.
Mad Scientist first with fewer targets. You kind of want that one to die rather than the Raptor to an unfortunate Boombot attack.
Yeah, but it is Dr. Boom who soaks up all of the damage here.
LoveCX's health total is getting pretty low.
Yeah.
He does have Mal'Ganis.
He does not have Mal'Ganis
turn.
this turn,
Right.
but he might have lethal this turn if the Boombots decide it's going to be that way.
Oh, no.
No,
It has not been decreed thus.
the Boombots will stay their hand. And he's playing all these things because obviously next turn Mal'Ganis is coming down.
Right, so it's that case where you know your turn 9 is taken up and you know turn 10 is already decided.
This is an interesting spot. LoveCX debating whether he wants to go face for 7 or clear that mad
Double
scientist.
one face.
Argent
That's
Horse
horrible.
Rider. The first time I think we've seen it in this tournament.
No, it's been around before, but hasn't quite had a big impact. Here, not going to be good enough.
No.
I have to imagine
he's going to get another turn.
He will, though he'll get a turn while his opponent has a Mal'Ganis in play. That's not the kind of turn I like to take.
No, that's not strictly speaking a good turn.
What ridiculous quick shot options might be available in Neilyo here? I mean, let's think about that. If
Next
Mal'Ganis
turn?
comes down, the Horse Rider and the Mad Scientist go face, which oh no, they can't.
You'd have to
He has-
quick
he has-
shot,
he has to
quick
kill
shot.
Mal'Ganis in play,
Yeah,
right?
he has to kill one of the 2 ones with the Argent Horse Rider and then go 2 face. So he has to put his opponent on 5.
loves, the cavalry's here.
And despite what Argent Horse Rider says, Neilyo might want to be worried. So it might be a good time to worry.
I think you have to go face here.
Yeah, for sure.
So Mal'Ganis comes down, quick shot into quick shot into kill
Into-
command.
Well, actually, that's just lethal.
And you-
Mal'Ganis is actually worse than Direwolf Alpha.
Oh,
here.
Direwolf makes it
Direwolf
lethal.
Alpha just
All right.
2 damage,
Well,
good enough.
LoveCX does even it up. Neilyo's
Good.
mid-range hunter, while it had a pretty good start, it just the mid-range really felt short, and I think the turning point was when he had to Houndmaster nothing.
Yeah, he really needed something better to do with his turn 3 and turn 4. He sort of ran out of options and didn't really have strong plays, in large part thanks to his opponent choosing to coin Implosion to take out just that 1/1.
Yeah, even though he only got 2 imps off of it, didn't get very lucky, it was still good enough to force some extremely suboptimal turns from Neilyo.
That was a couple of unfortunate turns and draws for Neilyo, but we have to also look, LoveCX, he had 2 2-point implosions and jugglers who just never hit what he wanted. So
Right.
despite that, he was able to overcome.
Yeah, and obviously it's National Cat Day, but
Yeah.
it was Direwolf Alpha that ended up winning the game
It's
for
a dog.
LoveCX.
It's a
Yes.
dog.
Of course.
Don't trust cats.
All right, well, out of the remaining lineups, Neilyo's got the Hunter still. He wasn't quite able to close out that game. He's got the Warrior, and he's up against the Druid and the mid-range Paladin. Fairly classical decks. We'll have to see what kind of iterations, as these players have tweaked most of these decks so far.
Let the hunt
So this, I think, is the matchup Neilyo was looking for against the Paladin. The mid-range Paladin deck is extremely strong against Control Warrior. The Control Warrior deck is largely built around eliminating all of the opponent's threats and sort of grinding them out of resources.
And that just never happens
And
against
Paladin does not run out of resources, especially with...
All right. Well, we see a pretty decent opener from the Hunter player here. The web spinner into a turn 2 animal companion into the bow, and if a beast survives, he's got the Houndmaster.
Yeah, for the Paladin player, this is also a pretty reasonable matchup, I have to say. Mustard for Battle allows you a lot of board control. Instead, Huffer's a good way to start turning this game to your favor.
You might have to play the Peacekeeper or the Coghammer here. With the True Silver draw, I kind of like the Peacekeeper, but Peacekeeper is such a good answer for high main that you would consider saving it. I just feel that if you play greedy with a Peacekeeper here, it might be the start of a really, really bad game.
Yeah, the Peacekeeper is pretty important to deal with the late game threats. But ooh, LoveCX is just going aggro. He is playing his muster for battle and heading to the face.
It's well, it's not. You know, obviously he would like to get rid of the Huffer, but it wasn't like he could do too much to the Huffer. He could have taken another 4 damage by swinging into it.
Oh, I'm not suggesting he should attack the
right,
Huffer.
Yeah.
He could have played Cog Master and attacked Huffer, or Cog Hammer rather.
That's
Cog
true.
Master he couldn't play. It's not his hand at all.
No. He would need to put that in his deck first. But look at this. It's this is a lot like what it usually looks like.
Hunter that I remember him playing.
Mid-range.
Well, he's going to lose control of the board very quickly here. He just won't have it anymore, and he's going to have to start figuring out how to put that together as a mid-range hunter, because generally, now face hunter, you just ignore this. You ignore you unleash the hounds and then you just go face. You let the paladin trade, but the mid-range hunter doesn't have all these charge minions, so losing control of the board is pretty problematic.
Well, I don't know how big of a loss it's going to be with the Shredder coming down, followed by the Web Spinner Houndmaster. Those are like it's a power play on 4, it's a power play on 5, and it gives them a few turns to draw, you know, something to play after that.
That's fair, but the Shredder is probably just going to get traded out, and then so is the. But imagine the web. Well, it depends. Let's see what his turn 5
It will
looks
deal
like.
some damage to LoveCX if he does have to attack into it with the True Silver.
Right.
And it looks like Neilyo is going to attack one of the muster tokens to try and ensure that it is definitely getting some face damage in with that Shredder.
I think it wouldn't have been too big of a deal to just do 3 face there. If the 3 dudes don't result in the Shredder, that seems like a decent scenario.
And LoveCX picks up Knife Juggler, which allows him to potentially play Juggle Muster this turn, which is relatively powerful, though would open himself up pretty significantly to a possible Unleash the Hounds.
Well, it's turn 5.
It's true.
Like, people who play ladder have nightmares going into that turn.
I mean, even just Unleash the Hounds, if you do choose to play Muster for battle this turn, is pretty rough. He can even just play Juggler and Hero Power and save his Muster for battle if he wants.
Put this apple on your head.
Well, oh, he
Juggler?
does go with the Cog Hammer.
Okay.
It's obviously wanting that Divine Shield and Taunt to land on the Knife. Well, actually, no. Do you want it to land on the Knife Juggler, or do you want to protect the Knife Juggler?
Well,
there's
that
the
would be
Unleash.
Unleash. So if he had chosen to go with Muster for battle, he would have been punished for it.
Could be a Houndmaster Unleash,
Well,
Houndmaster Starving Buzzard.
He's got the old school combo.
That's
Exactly.
right. Yeah.
Starving Buzzard. Unleash
He's
the
a
Hounds.
few turns away nowadays. He could have played it on the old cost. But
Who remembers 4 mana draw your deck?
Yeah, it was pretty good plan.
I
good plan.
played when it was 5 mana.
Was it? I think
It was. Unleash the Hounds was 2.
2, yeah.
Well,
And then Starving Buzzard was...
Unleash was moved to 3, and then Buzzard was moved to 5.
Right.
So at one time it was 4 mana.
That's correct, yeah. But I'm saying that when I started playing...
You win, Crip. You win another point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Welcome to the grand.
Just don't invite Ben Bro to the trivia, and I'm good. I can retain my championship title.
Ben knows a lot about
Oh, and there's
Hearthstone.
another
Yes, he
Dread
does.
Scale. Dread Scale pretty good against...
No, this is absurdly good in this matchup.
Yeah, it is.
Well, Dread Scale's actually great against the recruits here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a good play this
it's
turn.
not clear that he can
He
afford
might
to...
have to just Buzzard.
He could either Buzzard or just play Houndmaster. I think he's going to play Houndmaster. Buzzard just dies to the Cog Hammer. And this at least...
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
At least forces your opponent to attack into it with something.
Dreadscale, honestly, okay. Dreadscale, great at dealing with recruits. And at the same time, starving Buzzard into Unleash the Hounds.
Yeah.
Great.
He's got some pretty solid combo cards off of
thing
his
is,
web spinners this game.
I don't think he needs life as much as he needs damage with a Paladin at 12 life and
Oh, certainly.
and kind of struggling a little bit right now. I feel like the Juggler Unleash, if it gets a good point in the game, is going to be much stronger than drawing a few cards.
Certainly, yeah.
Yeah. Agreed. What usually happens to the Hunter in this matchup, the mid-range Hunter anyway, is as it draws on, they just get like overrun. They don't really have an answer to it. We know Neilyo is running the 1 explosive trap. Yeah, he's actually got to start thinking about his HP now.
Yeah, the Juggle Unleash, I think we may see it this turn. You see Juggler on the screen right there. Every opponent, minion your opponent has, the Unleash the Hounds creates a 1/1 Hound with charge, and then Knife Juggler deals 1 damage to a random enemy for each of those minions that come into play. So it does a lot of damage.
Well, looks
And
like
let's see where it goes.
Mark?
Good Knife Juggler. Oh,
Bad Juggler.
bad Juggler. Really bad Juggler.
Well, with those Juggles, I feel like you just get rid of that 6/2 just to extend the game a little bit more.
Is he's at risk of getting killed next turn, right? If he doesn't, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is pretty unfortunate for Neilyo because LoveCX does have that lay on hands in hand, and not only is that going to increase his health total, but LoveCX has the board presence and weapon that he can actually remove everything that Neilyo has in play and then gain that additional 8 health.
Yeah, this is kind of the end of the game for the mid-range Hunter
I'm
player.
surprised to see that attack. He wants to keep his Peacekeeper alive rather than his Shredder, so he wants a higher creature quantity now that he's been unleashed, perhaps?
That's possible.
Or maybe he's just willing to take more
wants to
damage.
go face. Yeah, I would have to imagine that what he's looking to do is to just keep both his minions around and then just lay on hands. I would imagine he'd want to see what he drew first, unless he's going to kill the Shredder, but it looks like he chooses, he chooses to just clear the minion, using his health total as a resource, goes to 12, with a pretty significant board here.
Yeah, and Neilyo's kind of off the board for now. Dreadscale, not super good because there's just, I mean, obviously we get rid of Elder Peacekeeper, but there's not a bunch of recruits to take advantage of, so.
And here is Scar himself, Savannah Jaime comes down.
It makes a huge impact, though. I mean, we talked about how the Hunter's behind on the board, but is he really?
I would say yes. I mean, obviously now, but prior to that.
So this Loatheb is actually a huge play here. It
One
means
off
that,
lethal.
Yeah, well, it means that Neilyo is unable to actually cast any combination of burn spells and use his hero power. Kill Command would do 5 damage, and if he was able to use Steady Shot in the same turn, that would finish LoveCX off.
So if he was at 10 mana, this would.
Yeah, if Neilyo is 1 damage or 1 mana off lethal here.
I wonder if anything can be done with all. I mean, there's always some Shredder combination. Like, I guess just simply Doomsayer is enough.
Yes, it would keep him alive.
But I wonder if there's anything else.
I mean, he can potentially. No, he's dead to the weapon in any minion. I think he may just have to try and find a Doomsayer there. He's gonna juggle. All right, I buy it. He can juggle, attack into Loatheb, get that off the board. But he has to get rid of every single minion.
I think he needs like 2 into the Shredder and then plays Dreadscale.
It's a good start.
No.
That's a worse start.
He needs to play both Dreadscale and Paladin Shredder and have his opponent get a 0 attack minion from the Paladin Shredder.
All right, let's see what happens.
That's good enough. Nope, that is not a 0 attack minion.
Very close though.
Yeah.
Or actually a 1 health minion.
Yeah, 1 health minion would have done it as well. So yeah, LoveCX with the mid-range Paladin will take game 2, and now...
Yeah, that was really close. That was actually closer than people might understand, because if a bad card came out of that Shredder, and Murloc Knight would not have produced a charged Murloc, which would have happened for sure,
It
by
always
the way.
happens.
Yes.
I just have nightmares of old Murkai.
Yeah. but if somehow, by some chance, a charged Murloc would not have popped up, it actually felt like the Hunter would have won that game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was a very close game, but LoveCX was able to come out on top with that mid-range Paladin, and now he just needs to win 1 game with his Druid deck to send Neilyo home.
And that may not be too difficult. Druid is pretty bad against mid-range Hunter, but I think the inclusion of the Explosive Trap is a really big plus for the Druid, because the Druid struggles so much against freezing. But the Warrior actually struggles a little bit against Druid in the general case. So, you know, it looks like LoveCX has quite an advantage here. I mean, if you even out the 2 matches, he's basically got to win one of 2 coin flips.
You've just got to win one game with Druid, and Druid is a deck that can beat any deck. It can have those very powerful starts with Wild Growth and Innervate, and no matter what your opponent's doing, it is able to pull out the win.
I also want to bring up Neilyo's mid-range Hunter has been struggling a little bit in the 2 games we've seen it lose now. In both situations, it was forced to just play a Houndmaster onto an empty board, and this is a lot of why I don't like this card so much anymore in Hunter decks. Shredder, obviously, great turn 4 play. You just play it down, it's completely fine. There are other things you can do with your deck to where you're not, forced to rely on the beast synergy so much, because a lot of times these days it's actually just very difficult to keep a beast on the board. Even Haunted Creeper, because when you're playing against players of this caliber, they understand what a Haunted Creeper means.
I mean, and the players are also familiar with each other's deck lists. Players know that you have Houndmaster in the deck, and they will sculpt their game plan around trying to neutralize that card.
Right. Yeah. Well, one thing some of us may not be too familiar with is the origin of our names. And speaking on that note, LoveCX has something to say about his.
我这个 ID LoveCX 的意义是，CX 是陈潇，也是一个模特。然后我之前呢就是比较的这个喜欢和这个关注这个陈潇。如果赢得了 BlizzCon 的冠军，我可能会更多的去留和请陈潇吃饭。
Yeah, some people want to use BlizzCon as a vessel to buy their mom cars. Some people want to use BlizzCon as a vessel to ask people on dates. Totally reasonable.
Why not?
I mean, saying that you're the Hearthstone World Champion can only help.
Yeah, yeah.
And you get like a trophy out of that, right?
You just bring the trophy with you,
Yeah.
when you pop the question?
No, you just bring the trophy with you everywhere.
Yeah, no, it's
You're like, hey,
walking around.
I'm the champion.
If you're walking around with a trophy, and especially a trophy and a giant novelty check, everyone wants to be your friend.
Yeah, you can even go grocery shopping. It's like, are you sure you want to charge me that much?
Just hold up
Yes,
the
they
trophy.
do. They see the check. They're like, I know you can afford it.
Like, that's a really cool trophy, but actually that price is final.
Yeah. All right, well, still quite a road to go until that trophy is acquired by either of these players. In fact, Neilyo is facing elimination here. This is do or die with the mid-range hunter that has been struggling quite a bit so far in the last few games.
And this opening hand from Neilyo doesn't have anything he's looking for. He really wants to find some of those early game minions so he's able to get on the board quickly and start pressuring the Druid before it is able to play its larger minions.
Yeah, we've seen the hunters so far this tournament have been kind of each bringing what they think gives them the best chance to have that early start. Jab's hunter we've seen has King's Elec, which is 2 mana 3/2 beast, has the ability to possibly gain you a card via winning a joust. And we've seen other players kind of doing different things. And thus far, it feels like Neilyo's early game hasn't really panned out the way he needs it to. And I'm wondering if that's just the way his deck is constructed. If it's just maybe like he has not been getting those cards in the early game. Not really sure what's going on, but yeah, he needs to have a little bit of a stronger opening. And for him, LoveCX's hand, no Wild Growth, no Innervate, no Darnassus Aspirant, so he's got a real chance here to get on the board before the Druid gets going.
Yeah, and that's where the Druid just can't keep up, because the Druid's weak point is coming back from a losing situation.
That Druid is particularly poor at dealing with multiple big health minions.
Right.
If you're able to get, say, Animal Companion, get Misha. The 4 health on that is a hugely difficult thing for the Druid to deal with without something like Swipe, and that's just trading down in mana, and you're just going to keep getting damage from the rest of what the Hunter has in play.
One thought I had about the King's Elec, just before we get too distant from that topic, it is a really cool card, but you kind of have to design your deck around it. Like, you have to include cards like Dr. Boom, you need the double high main, you kind of need those late game cards, because the reason it works in Hunter is if you're going to get like a 2-drop, you're going to lose the Joust anyway, but the strength of Hunter is most of the mid-range are spells, so they don't really get brought into the Joust mechanic.
Right.
And when you win a Joust, you win it either you're going to lose it or you're going to win it in a big way. And so it's a really cool card, and so far it has worked out for Jab. I believe the one time he played it, he pulled a Lotheb, which turned out to be pretty decent in that game.
Yeah, King's Elec very solid. LoveCX now, he drew the Wild Growth on the last turn, and he went ahead and coined it out, and I like that he did that because now he has the flexibility to play Wrath if a minion comes down. And as we pointed out, this Druid specifically because this hand for LoveCX was not loaded with Mana Ramp. So he did get his 1 Wild Growth, but he needs to be able to keep the board clear while he gets into those Shredders, stuff like Sylvanas, that'll allow him to kind of win the board from the Hunter.
Yeah, the average player looking at that opening hand might think, okay, well, I can play my Wild Growth on 2, and then play Shredder on 3, and then maybe coin out Sylvanas on my 4th turn.
Right.
But knowing that you're playing against an aggressive deck like Hunter, you really want to give yourself the opportunity to actually use your second turn for a removal effect rather than just trying to maximize your ramp. You need to ensure that you don't fall behind.
Now, the really interesting thing is that a more new player would have actually fared a bit better in this situation. Sometimes the suboptimal play in Hearthstone turns out to be the better one, but usually not.
Yeah, here it turns out that
yeah, if you had Wild Growth and played Sylvanas 2 turns early, and then play like a Shredder with a Wrath afterwards, or in place of Sylvanas, it probably would have worked out better, actually.
Yeah, here LoveCX runs in a situation where Neilyo has the Haunted Creeper, which is a minion that Wrath is not particularly good at removing.
I will give you 1 extra damage.
Yeah, and this is going to work out pretty handsomely for Neilyo. Have to imagine one of the animal companions is going to come out.
Which one?
I'm saying the one on the right.
But
Sounds like you're a bit stoked for BlizzCon.
I think the one on the left. The one on the left is Misha. The one on the right is Huffer.
I usually want to trust you on these
All right,
things.
let's play the guessing game.
Oh.
Liak.
No, but which one? Which one's which?
They're both Liak.
They're both.
They're all Huffer.
Ooh. I mean, it's always Huffer, but.
Right.
But I'm saying if he plays one on the left, it's gonna be Misha. If he plays one on the right, it's gonna be Huffer.
Quickly.
Okay.
I say Huffer regardless. It's just gonna be Huffer.
Oh, it was Huffer. Always
Hi.
Huffer.
Trust.
Wow.
No,
there's only one loser here, and that's me.
I'm colorblind. I can't tell which side is right and left. Wait, what? That's how that works?
Yeah,
No,
that's
no.
the
Dragon Master. Unfortunately, by rolling Huffer, LoveCX was guaranteed to get Keeper of the Grove.
Yep.
Keeper of the Grove is actually not Savage Combatant, but he's been a pretty savage combatant in this tournament.
Actually, we have not seen a single Savage combatant in this tournament.
I don't think so.
No, we saw a lot of that in round of 40, and we were remarking when we were casting America's Championship that the card had been cut, it seemed like, from pretty much all of the decks. But
Such a cool card, though.
for round of 40, it was all over the place. He just, yeah.
So it looks like Neilyo is debating whether he wants to play Animal Companion, maybe Horse Rider. I have to imagine that Animal Companion is a stronger play here. We have seen Neilyo taking his time with each of his turns, even if there is a relatively straightforward play. Whether he's planning out his future turns, whether he is trying to give his opponent the illusion that he has more decisions than he does, either way, it's going to the rope right here, and is it always Huffer? It is. It is, in fact.
I told you, it is always
They were
Huffer.
both Huffers. Your prophecies are stronger than mine this game.
I think
Only-
this is
only
actually
when
a
it comes
very good
to-
situation, actually, because this sets up a game mode where with 2 kill commands and Unleash, the Druid is going to be under a lot of threat the whole game, and it makes it so the Druid will probably have to just play out his hand as fast as possible, and that Unleash kind of at that stage often will close out the game.
But here it looks like Neilyo may very well just have to use a kill command to just get through that bear.
You're also at 30 HP. I think the bow might not be the worst thing.
Would you just bow and attack into the bear and hero power? Okay. I can see that.
I think I prefer, personally, kill command and then trade in with the Haunted Trooper and then just hero powering. It's cleaner. You take less damage, because as a hunter, a lot of the way, one of the ways you lose this is actually just taking chip damage through clearing things with your bow, and then you eventually just get comboed down. So
yeah, I mean, if you play the Eaglehorn bow and attack the bear, you're effectively committing to taking 12 damage from the bear.
Well, I think you clean up with the Argent Horse Rider next turn. But yeah.
Looks like Neilyo decides to kill command
Goes to
and
kill
takes
command.
the bear down. Leaves it open to hero power, putting LoveCX 18 health.
and he will next turn. He's got obviously all 3 mana cards in hand, so he can combo 2 of them, assuming he doesn't draw something like a high main off the top, which is really what he would love to see here after seeing one Keeper of the Grove.
And LoveCX is kind of had like not so great plays here. Like usually on 6 mana, you expect to do more than play a Sylvanas into 2/1/1s or to play a Shredder and hero power. And you kind of feel like you should be doing more on 6 mana than that.
I mean, 6 mana is typically the turn that the Druid curve often takes off. There's not that many 6 drops in the Druid decks. Usually maybe Sylvanas, maybe Emperor. But yeah, he is definitely a little behind here and needs to try to catch up. He could, if he really wanted to, he could cycle Wrath and take a look at his next draw, maybe then hero power and use that wild growth.
I feel like against a player who you know has Savannah high main, saving Wrath to hit your own Sylvanas kind of sets up a way where you can manipulate a win condition.
That's possible, yeah.
Yeah, I think right here Sylvanas feels good to me. Because at this point, Neilyo is kind of at the point where he has to start making the decision whether he's going to do the trades or he's going to just start going for face damage. And based on what's in his hand, I personally would like to see him just go on the offensive here.
Absolutely.
And just start really trying to, mow him down. He's got the bow, he's got the Horse Rider, he can start going face, and then he's got the Unleash the Hounds if more minions come down. And you've already seen one Druid's Claw, right?
Based on his hero portrait, I'd like to see him going face.
That's an insensitive comment. Not all hunters go face. Some hunters like to trade. Some hunters like to build boards, Brian.
What is that?
I don't know if some hunters like to trade. I think some hunters build their deck to trade and aren't too pleased about it in the end.
I mean, I'm just saying, I personally enjoy going face, but I know some hunters who, you know, like doing other things. On their Saturdays, they're out and about, they're doing stuff. Yeah.
They occasionally like to lock things, maybe load them up, you know.
I don't think any hunters are currently locking or loading things, but there may be a future where more locking and loading occurs.
Yeah.
All right, well, he could have killed the Sylvanas, but it does seem pretty inefficient. So the face play, I just think sets up a more likely win condition.
Yeah, he just brings that LoveCX down to just 11. And Neilyo still at 30 means that Savage Roar is not really much of a threat. I'm curious to see if we will see LoveCX just heal himself with Ancient of Lore. He is definitely getting into that scary zone of health, especially when he doesn't have any taunt minions in play.
I think anytime you're sub 20 health against a hunter, the hunter kind of smells blood in the water. And it's just like, you know what? Yeah, I'm just going to start hitting you with my bow. I'm going to hit you with spiders and stuff. See what happens.
That looked like a heal to me.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, and then Sylvanas attacking a spider is really not what you want to be doing with it. So Neilyo has 6 damage on the board. He does not have a beast for his kill command, but he could unleash.
I think you want to save the Juggler Unleash Kill Command combo for next turn, perhaps. I think this turn you just play the charge minion, hero power, and then face again.
I can see that.
I don't think you're at much risk from really anything. Even if you get like Innervate comboed, I believe that's 28.
I think I would actually just play down the Juggler here. I think I would Juggler, Horse Rider.
The Juggler could enable a trigger for Sylvanas, which might end badly, wouldn't it?
Right, it's a risk. It's a risk you take. And then the thing is, next turn you're going to be on 8 mana. So you could kill command, Unleash a Hound's kill command, hero power. So it's a risk. We'll see what happens here. Okay, no punish.
Okay.
So he had a 33% chance to get punished for that play. He didn't have to imagine now. It's just time
I'd say
to...
about a 100% chance to go face. 30% chance to go punish.
I was going to say, if this were a weather forecast, we're like, strong chance of face up in this region.
We got a
big Rexar system coming in here.
All right, well, LoveCX can clear, but it looks like he will not have a successful end from that. And it does involve Wrathing Sylvanas for 1 and hero powering the 1/1 down, I believe, which forces the mind control on the 2/1 charge, and with that and the 5/4 clearing the other one.
I think he's still dead.
Yes, he's still dead.
I mean, you said a lot of math there, but the only math I know is that...
It's a cool clear.
It is a very cool clear, and I can't wait to see it.
I think we will see. I think that's just his best chance, so...
It's, you know, he has no taunts. He could cycle into, like, maybe a Druid of the Claw, or... yeah, I think it pretty much has to be Druid of the Claw.
No, because he's going to hero power first here.
Yeah.
It may have been a better idea to attack the 1/1 with the 5/4 just in case he would try the Druid of the Claw.
We were talking about this earlier in one of the other matches about the fact that a lot of people have been choosing Wolf Rider over Argent Horse Rider. This right here is why I love Argent Horse Rider. Lower damage, but it's so much more annoying to try to get off the board. So you usually end up getting a second swing with it, which ends up being more damage. Or you can use it to trade into something like a Knife Juggler in the early game to get board control. But that is going to do it. Neilyo going to unleash Kill Command, and that's going to...
Kill Command, the Houndmaster. Oh, is it not enough? No, it's actually 1 off.
So he's going to go ahead and type the series with LoveCX and finally get that win on his Hunter. Yeah. It all panned out. The Druid had kind of a slow start.
I mean, Neilyo stays alive, more importantly. Yep. I mean, Neilyo was on the verge of elimination based on that game, and he takes it. And it wasn't that far away of a victory. I mean, that could have gone easily both ways there.
Yeah, we had a couple of close games the past two games, and you know, this is a very close series. They're going to Game 5.
Yeah, and Neilyo still has another little speed bump here. I mean, that's Druid and your Warrior. You'd rather beat the Druid.
Generally speaking, the Druid deck, because of the mana ramp into some of the large minions, able to punish the Warrior for using its life total as a resource, and then also just Ancient of Lore.
Right.
The Warrior deck revolves so heavily around exhausting your resources that Ancient of Lore allows you to reload, refill the board, and eventually put the Warrior in a position where you're able to beat them with the Force of Nature Savage Roar combo.
I also feel Sylvanas is just a tech choice to just intentionally further punish Control Warrior.
Yeah, the Warrior does often end up trying to generate these board states with these big minions, and Sylvanas can make it really difficult for them to ever get ahead with those.
Yeah, right. it just counterfeits so many plays. Like, the open board Sylvanas often is not a very good play, but against Warrior, it just prevents almost any relevant creature from being played.
We even see a Harrison Jones in Neilyo's Warrior deck, and that is going to just be a 5-4 for 5. What comes down is Valfurion does not wield weapons unless you count claws. Which the game does not.
We see LoveCX keep the Ancient of Lore in his opening hand along with Wild Growth and Innervate, recognizing just how important that card is to his chances of victory in this match.
Well, he is able, if he decides to get a slow start, he can Wild Growth without coining on turn 2, and then on turn 3 he can actually play the Ancient of Lore with the coin Innervate.
Yeah.
We see Neilyo's hand is pretty clunky.
It is not the best here. He has 2 copies of Deathspite, a very strong weapon, but he really wants to have something to do in the earlier turns.
Well, Deathspite is often a very important card. The only issue with this Warrior hand is all the times you play Druid and you lost to a turn 1 Darnassus, you're like, where is my Fiery War Axe? That's really the only thing here. The Fiery War Axe just needs to be drawn against that, but LoveCX doesn't have that.
Right.
The best answer to ramp often is the Deathspite, in fact.
All right, so the Force of Nature that LoveCX picks up here, not something he's going to be looking to play anytime soon, and he just passes the turn back.
That's a bad card.
That's not something Neilyo is going to be excited about. I think we've only seen Dr. Boom out of LoveCX
right.
in terms of big game hunter targets. We saw a Ragnaros from LifeCoach earlier.
That is an unusual tech choice,
Yes.
though. Ragnaros has mostly phased out. On one hand, there are often more powerful choices for late game more recently. On the other, people are just choosing not to play much late game at all.
Plus, Ragnaros is really good in metas where people aren't running like stickier minions, but with Shredder, with Haunted Creeper being so prevalent, Ragnaros hits those, and it kind of doesn't really matter.
And also just against Paladins. Against Paladins with their hero power, with Muster for Battle, being able to fill the board with small minions makes Ragnaros much less effective. It's very good against opponents who have single big minions, but not so much against full boards. But no Ragnaros here. We're only on turn 2, and Neilyo is role-playing LifeCoach, I guess. Waiting so long to decide to just armor up and pass.
I think he's considering his options for his next few turns. He might be thinking what he'd want to draw from shield block to play on 5, maybe.
Yeah, I've tend to notice too when I watch LifeCoach, as much as it's kind of fashionable to point out the whole rope coach thing, he oftentimes will look at those turns as kind of a roadmap for what he wants to do in the long term. And when you're at like turn 1 or 2 and there's not much to do, at the very least, you have a lot of time to think about how you want to fashion your game plan.
Well, in particular, a player who does as much thinking ahead and in as many calculations as LifeCoach, you only get so much time per turn. So if you're able to spend your turns where you don't have much to do and you don't have much to think about for that turn, planning ahead and thinking, okay, well, this is what I want to do this turn. This is what I want to do that next turn. If I draw this, I'm going to do this. So it gives you the opportunity to use that resource. Your time is a limited resource that you have in Hearthstone, and if you are a player who uses a lot of it, you want to maximize where you can find it.
How does this situation look for you? If you play the Acolyte, you get a better tempo turn. Even if you get silenced, it doesn't feel like that bad of a situation because you counter the Keeper with your weapon and then you're threatening 6 damage into 5 mana, so it's perfect to kill a Druid of the Claw.
I like playing Acolyte mostly because of the just developing something in your board. In many cases, you'll want to save Shield Block to combo with Shield Slam. Shield Slam is one of the best cards in the Warrior deck against Druid because it allows you to remove big minions for just 1 mana. But if the Druid is able to put a lot of pressure on you, it can be very difficult to use it effectively. But Shield Block and Shield Maiden are cards that allow you to do that even when you're under pressure.
And speaking of pressure, LoveCX could right now just put out the Ancient of Lore, which it looks like exactly what he's going to do.
Right now, his hand, he had a pretty exciting opening hand, but
Neilyo's really
nothing
hoping
has...
for Dr. Boom right now, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Boom! Dr. Boom!
Still pretty... The Ancient is still pretty good. Those are some horrible draws from LoveCX.
Yes, they are.
He is really looking to pick up something like a Druid of the Claw next turn. I think there's a very good chance we'll see Neilyo just send in the Acolyte to its death and Deathspite that Ancient down.
I have to say that if it was Dr. Broom, I think it would have been probably the only game I've ever seen that playing Dr. Broom loses you the game on turn 4.
Yeah, those games are kind of hard to come by.
Acolyte draws at least 2 cards, probably deals with both boom bots, and you get a free kill on Dr. Broom with BGH, right?
It would have been a pretty rough spot for the good doctor.
Amazingly bad.
Is he such a good doctor? Is he?
Yeah,
he's kind of malevolent.
He's balanced after all.
Well, just more that he looks malevolent in his picture. He's got the hood. He's laughing. It's not usually a sign of a good guy.
It's also usually not the sign of a good guy that they're used for target practice in a quest line in World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Bash is a good pickup to have. Yeah, so LoveCX's Ancient of Lore, he was definitely looking for kind of meteor threats. You know, he wanted the Shredders, maybe the Thorsan or something.
He wanted threats at all. He just drew removal spells. That's what he was looking for.
So the Ancient of Lore got him closer to the Druid of the Claw.
And even if the the cards he immediately draws aren't those, it definitely digs him deeper and finds what he needs.
Right, and it probably feels pretty good to play down the Druid of the Claw here. Since Druid of the Claw in bear form will have 6 health, which means that something else is going to have to happen for Neilyo to get rid of it. Whether it be an Execute, a Bash. It's not going to feel good no matter what Neilyo does, because he's wasting a resource potentially.
I think we might see the Shield Block Armor Smith. I think your hand is just a bit clunky right now, and it feels bad to waste a Shield Block, but from this stage in the game, it's very difficult to actually play a Shield Block.
What now?
It doesn't feel... No, it doesn't feel good. I completely agree with you there. Well, and unfortunately, like, as a warrior, you can clear this. That Druid of the Claw is not going to live. But at the same time, it's kind of like, what's the least cringe removal option?
Yeah,
I think Bash maybe.
I just feel that with the activated Death Spite basically on its last charge and the Execute, you want to save that for a huge tempo swing.
No, I mean that's fair. That's a pretty good fair option. Let's see. So I think Bash Execute. So yeah, he sides with you on that one, Crip. Save the Death Spite charge.
But without the Execute, it's not as valuable as the funny thing.
Right. So you kind of like halfway went with your suggestion.
But now LoveCX, he's got nothing to do. He's got a fistful of spells, and that's really not where you want to be.
Oh no, we've actually seen this play earlier in the tournament.
We have seen the tempo force of nature face.
This just reminds me of Scenarios' ability in Warcraft 3, where he spawns a bunch of treants and they do nothing.
I mean, 6 damage.
It is not nothing, but it is a turn and a half of armoring up when Justicar Trueheart comes down.
Yeah.
It's
or just a turn and play it on turn 6, on turn 10.
He's thinking about just wild growthing.
I mean, he has no good plays this turn. He could. I wouldn't even think it was horrible for him to just play Big Game Hunter and cycle Wrath on it.
Because no, that sounds bad.
That's extreme, Brian.
I think extreme.
All right, here we go. Neilyo's face. Neilyo is probably very concerned now that LoveCX has happened onto something he didn't think about. He's about to take like 25 damage.
He's like,
I don't know.
He's like, I don't even know what's going on.
That's the sort of thing that's either great for you or terrible.
We need to like rent a supercomputer to guess how much damage.
His expression. He's like, is there something that can kill me? What's happening? What is happening?
LoveCX super cool though. He's got a plan here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, his plan is to reduce his opponent's health to 0. That's how you win. Duh.
At the same time, you know, if you play Justicar Trueheart here, you help your opponent by giving him a play.
Ooh.
Because if Swipe was his best play last turn, there's some like really weird thing that's going to happen to it.
Neilyo has to be thinking that there's something like double combo. That's like the other Innervate and Force of Nature double Savage Roar or something that LoveCX is just sort of sending damage to his face right here to preserve mana over the next few turns.
I feel like if you expect Thunder removal, the Sludge Belcher might be a little bit better at receiving it.
It's true, but this sets up to you play this turn, then you play Sludge Belcher, and then use your hero power to gain 4 armor next turn. Just a much more efficient use of your resources overall over the course of the 2 turns.
So on the plus side, we were talking earlier about how Brawl is a really good answer to Shade of Naxxramas, but if you never play another minion because you never draw them and all you draw is spells, that Shade is actually pretty invulnerable.
Can't fight with anyone who's not there.
Yep. There's nobody to brawl with, just Shade sitting on the board all alone like, hello? Hello? Anybody?
Well, a Fiery War Axe draw...
Naxxramas is mine, okay? No one else is allowed
a Fiery War Axe draw would have killed the Shade here.
It could have, yes. Well, would have and could have are different things.
Very different in this case.
I have to imagine Neilyo is going to go with Sludge Belcher plus either Armor Smith or just tank up this turn.
Yeah, actually, Armor Smith is often a play that you'd make behind a Sludge Belcher over an Armor Up, but now that Armor Up is 4, that decision's a lot tougher.
It is, yeah.
I think the play when you are against the Druid, and the Druid is giving you the good fortune of not just beating you up from like turn 3 on, you owe it to them to tank up every single turn and really say thank you for this.
Yeah, you have given me the opportunity to, and now counter swipe. That swipe, just forget it ever happened.
Bye, Swipe. Unfortunately, Naxxramas no longer belongs to specifically just Shade. It also belongs to Sludge Belcher.
And Dr. Boom. He's invading Naxxramas. He's looking for somewhere else to do his
I appreciate how
experiments.
this is actually a Stranglethorn Veil board, but we've just decided this is now Naxxramas.
Well, that's what the Shade said, you know?
Well, he's not saying this has to be Naxxramas. He is
Naxxramas
just
is mine. He's just-
objectively letting everyone know.
Just informing people as to the facts of the situation.
If you find Naxxramas, it's actually mine. Please return it to me. I am its owner.
All right, let's talk about the play here.
No, let's talk about
your
Naxxramas.
BGH. Your BGH really doesn't have many targets besides this Dr. Boom. So even though you have more greedy plays to make, and often it's fun to play greedy against the Druid that obviously has a terrible hand, you probably just want to play down the Armor Smith, attack face, BGH afterwards.
He does theoretically have the opportunity to use Barongeddon to kill the Shade this turn. Because he can attack face, deal
That's
1 damage
true.
with the Death Rattle, and then play the Barongeddon to remove the Shade.
Well, he can attack the Dr. Boom to
Yeah.
clear the board with the
That's
Geddon.
true, yeah. That's also an option. Chooses not to go with that, though.
Oh, it looks like he's not attacking with weapon this turn.
Correct sequencing, because much like the Azure Drake, the big game hunter is the natural prey
Yes.
of the Boombot.
I think he's probably the most killed minion by Boombot.
Right.
No, I'm sure Silverhand Recruit might be.
Boombots are very loyal
I gotta
to their
find that
master.
out. I have to know.
You want to know?
I have
what
to
is-
know.
What is the minion that has died the most?
I know it's
the
Azure
Death Rattle
Drake.
of
I don't
Boombot?
even have to look. Azure Drake's not even in every deck, but
It's
I
just
just know
not
it.
played enough, though. but when it is, I think you're right. You have to factor in how frequently you play against the card.
Sure.
right?
But 100% of the time,
Absolutely.
Azure Drake
We're
dies
with
to
you.
Boombats.
We're with
okay,
you
good.
on that.
That's just a
It's,
fact.
I don't sound like a paranoid like conspiracy nut anymore.
It's just science, okay?
It's just science, exactly.
Ooh, all that armor.
Yeah, I mean, LoveCX is already in a terrible, terrible position here, and he's just looking to try to at least get the board back.
Yeah, if you can start getting the board back, it's not as if
Rat for
Neilyo has
one.
a ton of cards. And as I said earlier, Druid's not on the same win table.
Oh.
Nope.
That was not the statistic.
I mean,
we
if
were
that was an
looking
Azure Drake,
for. Yeah,
yeah.
it would actually have 1 health.
Maybe
Maybe not have died.
Maybe that bomb was confused because the Armorsmith had 4 health, so he's like, "Is that you, Azure Drake?"
And then it actually opened the door. And it's like, no, okay. Only
That's
do,
why I
I'll
only did
only do
3.
3.
Yeah.
I'll only do 3.
The
Well, just the
roleplay
passive
experience.
Shield Maiden here seems pretty fair. I mean, this armor is gonna start stacking up like crazy. Neilyo's counting some fingers here.
Doing some
So,
math.
okay. So if I get Force of Nature, Savage Roared, Innervate, Savage Roared, how much damage if the Shade gets buffed by 1?
It's a lot of math, Crip. I gotta be honest with you.
Okay, I think it's 29.
31, I think, right?
I think it's 29.
Isn't it 22 from the
Right.
Force Roar, and then
Oh, you're
5
right. It gets
plus 9.
double roar.
Yeah, so it's 31.
It's plus 9 from the Shade.
Yeah.
All right, you got me.
Haha.
Kibler 1, Crip 0.
So yeah, I mean, and right now Neilyo is currently at 37. If he plays Shield Maiden and Armors Up, he goes
He's
to
safe.
43.
He's safe.
So he's I think he can survive.
I can take
And it looks like he
LoveCX is like, please make
also
this stop.
did the math.
And Neilyo's like, oh, well, I'm gonna die.
It's true. The facial expressions are so radically different. Like,
Yeah.
am I safe now? Am I safe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only way that LoveCX could look to muscle through all this armor, it would have to start with Emperor Thorsan.
Mhm.
And even then, because you've already seen 1 Force of Nature, it's kind of not really.
I mean, he needs to find his other ancient. Like, he really needs to actually get multiple minions that are able to stay on the board for multiple turns and keep attacking. His road to victory here, well, it certainly isn't Innervate. That certainly isn't it.
Right.
Though it,
We basically just removed Wild Growth from our hand this turn.
I mean, the key really is
0 mana discard Wild Growth.
yeah. The key really is not going to be burst damage with Force of Nature. It's going to be actually establishing a board presence and attacking
Yep.
multiple times. You don't burst down someone who's at 50 left.
So, be curious to see if he finally trades in the Shade.
Nah.
I mean, he really needs to. Oh, it looks like he decides
Oh,
not to.
what was that, Crip?
Let's keep it around.
What was that? He traded. He saw how much trouble the warrior had earlier against just the bear.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he's banking on this. And like,
This is that same Death Spite, by the way. This has been just around since turn
Right.
4, and he
Yeah,
just has
his
another
opening
Death Spite
had
in his
2
hand.
Death
too.
Spites.
well, you gotta value your weapons. Yeah, you know, just throw them around all willy nilly.
Well, there's 2 plays here. There's the Geddon, but that leaves you vulnerable to a BGH, and a huge tempo swing is probably the only way things start going south. So I think that's a bigger risk than you really should be taking at this point. That's why I like the Slam or the Cruel Task a lot better.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Neilyo maybe trying to figure out, okay, what in the world can go wrong here? Because it's very clear that he is in a commanding position in this game, and I think that he's trying to think of what are the worst case scenarios that LoveCX can do that he needs to react to. Does he need to perhaps save this Slam? Looks like he is going, I believe, with no, very good. Okay.
He can start pushing damage with this, so I completely understand this play. If there is no big game hunter,
but
he can start pushing it. Right.
But why take that risk is the interesting point, right?
No, I think that's completely fair. Maybe Neilyo has big game hunter, or not big game hunter, but Dr. Boom in his lineup, so you just get it out of the way.
Yeah, and this is now suddenly
LoveCX
has a board.
Yeah.
We were just saying, in order to win this game, LoveCX needs to establish multiple minions and allow them to stay in play for multiple turns. And now
Neilyo
that's
is
exactly
expecting really bad things to happen to him. So, like he might over-remove this board. He might do something crazy like Death Spite, Cruel Task, Slam the BGH.
Yeah, it's possible.
I mean, he's given so much credit to LoveCX for having just a ridiculous combo.
It's possible that swipe play from LoveCX really just threw Neilyo off into thinking that he had a combination of cards in his hand that just weren't there.
It'll be interesting to see now if he actually just chooses to do something like Death by Cruel Taskmaster to get rid of the Sludge Belcher. Doesn't really feel like that's what you necessarily want to do, but now, as we pointed out, Neilyo is at the point where he has to start getting rid of minions, where for a long time he wasn't. He was just on this plan where he was just like, oh, let's get to armor up. Life's great.
Yeah, he just got to relax. There's nothing really in play.
He was just very, very relaxed. And
Slam on the Sludge Belcher. Will draw a card. And then Death Spite takes it out.
Okay. When you have the tank up ability, you're never going to use that over playing a shield block, even though your hand might be pretty bad.
Yeah, tank up is the choice here, leaving him at a comfortable 45 health.
This is how it starts to get bad, though, if Neilyo doesn't find a brawl. Ooh, wow.
This is a pretty good draw there. Though interestingly, if LoveCX were to play Lotheb and Neilyo did have brawl, he could still spend the full 10 mana to play.
He's also, I think
that's
a good
just good enough, though.
Right, I think he's still 1 or 2 turns off of lethal, even with the Savage Roar. So maybe he realizes he doesn't need to commit to it just yet.
I think we'll probably see the attack with the Death Spite, maybe with Cruel Taskmaster to finish off the big game hunter, then maybe Sludge Belcher and Armor Smith to sort of keep things secure.
I truly wouldn't be surprised if Grom hits the Drake after that.
Yeah, it's also possible.
I mean, it doesn't even to be enraged from the Death Spite hit. At the end of the turn, you get a 9/5 in play, and you've already been BGH'd once.
Yeah, it's true.
And I'm pretty sure Neilyo realizes that, as we've been saying, the only way he loses the game at this point is if LoveCX can develop a board and start pushing with, a second combo, or just a Savage Roar with like 4 or 5 minions on the board. So using Grom right here to get rid of the Drake doesn't feel particularly bad to me.
Yeah, it seems good to me as well.
Get rid of that. Put down the Grom. You've already seen the big game hunter.
Yeah, and here comes Grom is going to take out Azure Drake. Role playing as a boombot.
No! Azure Drake, run!
It did hit it for 4.
It did, yeah.
Sigh. Azure Drake, you were so young.
Yeah.
He had so much promise.
And I really feel like LoveCX is probably really regretting not playing Lotheb now.
And now he's in a position where he doesn't really have a clean way to contest this Grom without investing a lot of resources. He could use his Savage Roar and perhaps his Keeper of the Grove to clear the board. That still leaves him in a pretty awkward spot where he doesn't have much in play. And this is his...
Oh, Neilyo is so relieved there. He's like, okay, I won the game. That's it.
Time to just tank up until fatigue.
Yeah.
This is, he really needed that second Force of Nature. There's a world where Savage Roar can still possibly get it done, but
and now
Alex good enough. Aggressive
you...
mode.
I know you don't have big game hunter, and you
Look
are
at that
a
sigh of
druid,
relief from Neilyo.
Yeah.
He sort of has this moment of recognition.
Oh, that's a little bit of worry, though,
yeah.
introduced into the equation here.
Does complicate things, but Neilyo, he's still at 38, and he still has Shield Block, Sludge Belcher, and Armor Smith in his hand.
Do you just like innervate out the Lotheb now? You just need to put power on the board, maybe.
I think you might. It looks like he goes with Piloted Shredder.
I'm curious what exactly he's saving Lothab for. Not playing it aggressively so many turns in a row now suggests that he's saving it for a specific spell situation.
Yeah, he kind of smiled there for a minute, understanding that he's going to be able to remove this. He has the Alexstrasza to push damage.
And there, that shield slam is able to take out the Ancient. Still is able to tank up Alexstrasza, goes face.
I thought for a minute the target on Shield Slam was the face of the Druid, so he's like, ha, finally found my Shield Slam.
Yeah.
Got him.
There are some cards you guys have introduced recently that does enable that play.
If you're a Warlock.
Yeah. Or if you have Treader.
But here we go. Here we go. It's time for the last Savage Roar of the Druid.
And there, we're going to see Alexstrasza sadly die. Poor dragon.
I was going to say, that must upset you more than it upset us.
It's truly tragic.
After seeing the Azure Drake, too.
Now, as bad as it is looking for the Druid, Neilyo doesn't really have anything right now.
Yeah.
He has a shield block. That's another card.
Could actually draw lethal.
Oh.
Hey, look, more dragons.
Hey, I'm happy again.
This dragon will surely survive.
Well, it has 12 health minion. It very often survives.
More importantly, it's also glowing and I think throwing up dreams. I don't know what's going on there.
What goes on is that she dreams and the world trembles.
I mean, I see that, but it looks like she's shooting lasers out of her mouth.
Hey, that's kind of true.
Okay, fair. Hey, I'm down if you're down. Let's shoot some lasers. And so...
Yeah, not many cards left in LoveCX's deck. Only 4 cards remaining. So it is very possible that that Neilyo can actually just run LoveCX entirely out of resources in this entire game.
Especially considering he'll be drawing essentially 2 cards a turn because of Ysera. LoveCX is drawing more cards, but he's
and
not.
there's a Wrath. That's only 3 cards left. Refreshment Vendor.
Yeah, I remember that card.
Yeah.
It was kind of the weird addition that LoveCX put in, but it actually led to him being in a favorable situation one game. That he won. That part's important too.
Yeah. And a reaction from Neilyo. What? What?
No, he was probably very upset because he didn't actually throw a funnel cake. The reaction was based on the fact like, but that's chicken.
Is this getting fixed sometime?
I don't understand. That's not a funnel cake at all. If this is something like...
Refreshment Vendor lies.
Wow.
No, yeah, beat it. It's very sad. Only this is our town, scrub. He didn't have his friend.
So at one point, this was Nax Ramus, and then it's also just his town.
Yeah.
Oh, the dream is going to make quick work of that, though.
And it's going to make quick work of LoveCX's dream, perhaps, of remaining in this tournament.
I think that
line.
LoveCX's dream has already taken many hits. I think his hopes are quite low at this stage in the game.
The dream is not much of a reality. There goes
Sylvanas, why don't you
back
just
to the hand.
Why don't you just chill out there, Sylvanas? So Sylvanas is going to go back to hand, and yeah. Neilyo, a couple points of damage off of this, though.
Yeah, pushing for face here is really important, as if the Sylvanas does have any chance.
Neilyo is super relieved.
And you see him pumped up here.
Is there another Druid the Claw left in LoveCX?
Oh, Ysera
not gonna matter.
awakens off of the Ysera. That's quite the dream, and that is going to be enough. None of these cards from LoveCX's hand. He can play the Sylvanas, and he would be able to steal that Ysera, but not enough life, and that is it. The game is over, and Neilyo will be moving on to remain in this tournament.
Yeah, after a rough series of games with that Hunter deck, he manages to get the win on the Hunter, and then get the win in a matchup where, you know, obviously the Druid has to be the favorite, but as happens sometimes when you run a deck with so many spells, LoveCX just drew into them. He never really got a foothold against the Warrior, and the Warrior was basically